Hey guys, so busy weekend. We had Money in the Bank from London. That was exciting. So we're gonna go over the go home show for Raw and Smackdown and Money in the Bank and where this takes us from here. Um, let's start us out with Monday Night Raw, and we start the show with Dominic. He's gonna kind of try to get things hyped up for his match against Cody. Tries to welcome people to Monday Night Raw. They're not letting him. So, that ends up being left to Cody to actually get that welcome to Monday Night Raw going. It was a pretty nice. It was an okay segment. Kind of got you excited a little bit for the match. Not super excited, I guess, but I mean, you knew it was going to be a good match. So we then had Ricochet taking on Shinsuke Nakamura. Both of these guys in the ladder match. It was an okay match, and it kind of hyped you up for a couple of the participants. Also brought in Bronson Reed in that too, is that the three of them have kind of been in this feud, which has gotten all three of them on the card and involved in a storyline. Again, not having to do with the title. So that was nice. Ricochet ends up picking up the victory there. They talked to Matt Riddle backstage. He kind of went over his match against Gunther, which we saw on Saturday. Then we end up getting the match made official for Dominic Mysterio and Akira Tozawa. We then had a match. It was Raquel Rodriguez and Ronda Rousey. And Ronda ends up picking up the victory there. This was just to hype up that match for the tag titles that we saw on Saturday. Yeah. We had then Finn Balor. He had a promo to get people excited about his match against Seth, which honestly, that didn't even need to be done, really, because with everything that they have set up from 7 years ago and how they have played that back, that is making that a must-see match, right? So, that is what we have there. Alright, so I have to look. One second, guys. I'm going to look something up because I talked about Payback, which is September 2nd. But I want to see when SummerSlam is. Because I feel like that should be August 5th. August 5th, okay. That makes sense. So SummerSlam, our next premium live event, and then Payback. Should be fun. Alright. So we had Seth Rollins out there. He's talking to everybody. Carmelo Hayes is there. Well, Seth had been at NXT. Carmelo had his back when Finn tried to attack him. It brings NXT into the main roster, which I think is good. We're starting to mesh that, which I think is what they want to do. So Seth essentially wished him good luck with him defending his title against Baron Corbin, which happened on Tuesday. Interesting side note there. Baron Corbin went back to his lone wolf music, his lone wolf persona. I think if he sticks to that, he's going to go back to being able to connect with the fans, which he has not really been. So Balor tries to sneak attack Rollins again. Does not work. Carmelo Hayes gets involved again. Takes the chair from him. This is going to overflow into NXT as well, as we see Rhea essentially telling Carmelo Hayes to stay out of Judgment Day business when we see her backstage at NXT. So this is good. We did get a The Miz ends up attacking Ciampa when he is on his way to the ring. I don't remember exactly who Ciampa was supposed to be facing, but the match never starts because Miz hits the skull-crushing finale and the match is called off. So this is going to be a fun feud between Miz and Ciampa. I like it. And it would be... See, if there was someone that they were really putting with The Miz at the moment, it would be kind of fun to see Ciampa reunite with his tag partner to recreate DIY on the main roster. But right now with The Miz not really involved with anyone right now, I think it's best to keep this as a solo feud. We then got the match between Akira Tozawa and Dominic Mysterio. It was just kind of there. Dominic ends up winning. It was there. Okay, so I am kind of connecting with Dominic, but he still kind of frustrates me. It's not in that same way that I'm not connecting with Indus. I'm connecting a little bit more so with Dominic than that. So we then had the Money in the Bank Summit for the women's match. It breaks down into a brawl, as they usually do, with Becky at the end of the day climbing the ladder, unhooking the briefcase. That essentially tells you that there's a very good likelihood she is not winning that match, which is okay because, as I said in my other video, this story is not about Becky. As much as I would love to see her eventually win that briefcase, and I think someday down the line she will, the story was not about her this year. And that was just not the story. What did make things interesting, though, we did see Becky Lynch run into Rhea Ripley backstage then, where you see that stare down, and you see Rhea essentially trying to tell her if she does win that briefcase, don't even think about trying to cash it in on me. So, you get that idea that maybe there is something there, maybe not. We then had Gunther versus Sami Zayn. Gunther ends up picking up the victory. It was an okay match. It was there. It got some people on stage, got us to see a different perspective. It made sense in that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have been teamed up with Matt Riddle. We then did get Carmelo Hayes in his first match on Raw. He competed against Finn Balor. I don't think that this hurts Carmelo Hayes that he lost in his first match. He has not, this is not his call-up, okay? It's not. And I think this is a great example of the meshing that they're going to try to do between these brands. And I think also part of it is to try to get an idea before they're called up what the reaction of the fans are going to be to a particular superstar. Before you call them up and find out that the crowd is just not going to connect with them. They're not ready yet in that aspect. So you get kind of a feel for that beforehand. So I like that they're doing this. And I think that that is at the end of the day what this was. Okay, we had Cody Rhodes taking on Damian Priest. Cody Rhodes ended up picking up the victory. It was not a bad match. Got both of them onto the card. It's a match we had not necessarily seen, so that's good. It gave us something interesting. We didn't necessarily get any surprises or anything here. It was essentially just kind of getting things hyped up for the premium live event, right? That's what it was meant to do. And it did that. Alright, so let's talk about Smackdown. Alright, so we started this with the Tag Team Championship match. Kevin Owens took on Pretty Deadly. Of course, they again tried to do those offhanded tactics to try to cheat their way into a victory there. Didn't work. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens retained there, which I think it was the right call. This doesn't hurt Pretty Deadly, and I don't think that this is the last time that we will see these two tag teams even coming to blows there. So that's good. And I am beginning to kind of connect a little bit with Pretty Deadly. I don't like them, but I'm not meant to. They are heels. So the not liking them is not necessarily that I can't connect to them. So we then get Austin Theory taking on Ridge Holland. Excuse me. The kicker here is that if Ridge Holland wins, he will get a championship opportunity against Austin Theory. He does not do this. Austin Theory picks up another victory. So he's kind of growing on me a little bit too. I didn't necessarily care for the guy, but I'm seeing those sparks of things there. I think he can do more with maybe a couple more wins. We'll see how this goes. for right now, I don't hate him being the champion. Then we get Karrion Kross calling out AJ Styles for another match. We don't have an answer to that challenge yet, or any kind of an idea of when that would be. I imagine that we will find that out on Friday. We will probably get an answer from AJ on that in some form or fashion. They did have a video package concerning the bloodline and everything there. We'll talk more about that. That storyline has been really good. Okay, so they did not, this leads to this next segment. They did not completely drop that whole thing with Bayley and Shotzi. The night before the pay-per-view, or the premium live event, I'm sorry, they have this match. Now, keep in mind that this was set up by the challenge being issued by Shotzi and Io accepting on Bayley's behalf. So you wonder if this is Io's way of saying, I want you to prove that you are as good as you say you are. You keep saying that you're better than us, that you deserve these opportunities, that you have better chances than us of winning. But this is your chance to prove that you deserve it, that you should be, right? So, Bayley ends up picking up the victory with some help by Io. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, because first of all, Io accepts this match, but then she goes out there and she helps her to win it. I guess it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it is what it is. And considering that I didn't see Bayley winning the Money in the Bank match, which, by the way, that should not be a spoiler for those that have maybe seen the video I did earlier pertaining to all the participants in both ladder matches. This is going to bring more heat into that feud, hopefully, with Shotzi and Bayley. That isn't done, and that's okay. I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. You know this isn't over because Bayley cuts off some of Shotzi's hair. I am kind of curious what this is going to mean for Shotzi's character. If there's going to be some changes there. I want to see what this new look is going to be like for Shotzi. I think this is going to be a game changer maybe for Shotzi. We will see. Okay, so then we have the Grayson Waller effect. Logan Paul comes on out. This eventually leads to all of the men's ladder match opponents coming out. And they end up brawling. Kind of what they do. At the end of the day, we do get a triple threat match. We get LA Knight, Butch, and Santos Escobar. With Logan Paul at ringside. Pete Dunne ends up winning that one, which really I think that's pretty solid for him. He's a good competitor, and I think he's got potential there, and they're gonna maybe start pushing him a little bit. Okay, so we do not have to wait until Friday, this coming Friday, to find out. AJ Styles accepts that match. He will have Mia Yim in his corner. We don't know when exactly that's going to be, but that's okay because this is going to be a good match. And you have that equalizer of Mia Yim to counteract Scarlett. Then we had our WWE Women's Championship match. Asuka defending against Charlotte Flair. Now, keep in mind that Bianca was told that she was not allowed at ringside. However, they never told her that she could not buy a ticket and still sit in the front row, which is exactly what she did. No rules against her doing that. No one said that she was not allowed to do that. At the end of the day, Asuka did end up winning by disqualification, because Asuka is attacked by Bianca Belair. She actually ends up hitting the KOD on both Asuka and Charlotte on the announce table. So, where do I see this leading? I see this leading to a triple threat match, probably at SummerSlam. That's my guess. We're going to probably get Asuka versus Charlotte versus Bianca. I don't necessarily hate that match. Who ends up winning in that, we're not going to speculate about that yet, right? But that's where I think this storyline is going, with Bianca breaking that up. Okay. So, we then have Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, and Paul Heyman come on out. And eventually the Usos do come out as well. And we get that stare down there. We get that brawl, as of course it's going to turn into there. And that's how we close out the show, which is a good way to do that. I like that they've been closing the show with that whole bloodline thing. It leaves you on a very high note, reminding you of the big storyline that they want to focus on. Okay. So hopefully this is not going to be as long as other ones where there's been a premium live event. We're going to delve right into Money in the Bank. Let's start with the women's match. Now, this is not going to be in order, okay? It's not. And that's okay. And I'm doing it that way for a reason. Okay, let's start with the women's Money in the Bank match. Everybody put in their best effort here, right? I felt like it was a strong match. End of the day, the outcome that I thought was going to be there was Io Sky picks up that victory. What's interesting, though, is that Io Sky handcuffs Becky and Bayley together through the ladder. So the fact that Io handcuffs Bayley, who's supposed to be her partner, her stablemate, is interesting, and it makes sense, the look that Bayley gives Io when she grabs that briefcase, and I think it really lets you know that things are not 100% on par there. Io definitely wants Bayley to understand that she's not beneath Bayley. She will not allow Bayley to make her feel as though she is beneath her, right? So that's where this is leading more towards that dissension between Damage Control, which is where I kind of thought that part might lead. And this is definitely Io's time, right? They have kind of been pushing her. She's looked so strong. This was her year. It is her time to become champion. And whether she goes after whoever wins Whether Asuka retains at SummerSlam or whenever Io decides to cash in, it's going to be a good match, I think. Um, okay, let's go back to the men's match, because that was a match that opened up the night. But it's because of the match that I want to talk about after that. So I'm kind of going in order of the way certain things kind of affected it, right? So the men's match, there were very good. Everybody made their statements in this match. End of the day, Damian Priest, who exactly who I thought was going to come out on top, picked up the win. I know a lot of people were sure that it was going to be LA Knight, which I would not have hated, but I think the story is Damian Priest. Now, where I thought this was leading, because this is definitely Damian's year, right? I really feel like that is a story. We're going to move quick to Finn Balor's match then against Seth Rollins, because that's where I thought that this was going to affect things. Because my thought process was that Finn Balor was going to end up picking up the victory. And I felt like there was maybe going to be some kind of stare down, maybe something. I thought there might be some interference, maybe costing Finn, because Damian didn't want to face Finn, something there. And Damian was definitely out there, but he never acted as though he was getting ready to cash in, and he did not get involved. Now, what's interesting is that to some extent, Damian did distract Finn. Not necessarily meaning to, but him getting out of his chair was a distraction enough. And this is going to... While Finn did not win that match, it still was enough to start to put that wedge in there. Finn feels as though he cost him that match, even though he didn't necessarily. I think this also shows that Finn is upset that, first of all, he didn't win the match, but now Damian is basically throwing it in his face that I now have that opportunity to go after Seth if I wanted to, for the title that I essentially just cost you, right? So I think that's going to be the storyline there with Judgment Day. The setup here was to start to see those cracks. How soon they necessarily go about it, how quickly it goes, I don't know. But that's where that comes in. Okay. So we're going to kind of get back to the way that they have it, the order it went in. We then had the Women's Tag Championship match. Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler taking on Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. The only title change of the night. Well, the only other title, there were only two other titles on the card. The United States Championship, no, the Intercontinental Championship, and that was, and the Heavyweight Championship. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez pick up the victory with a shock of the night that I didn't see coming at all. I looked at my screen. I was actually at work at the time. I did watch the whole thing back later, but I looked on at my screen and I had to do a double take. I'm like, does Shayna really have the Kirifuda clutch on Ronda? What am I witnessing? There was not really anything, I don't think really, that Ronda necessarily did. There was no hint at anything to indicate that Shayna was about to, out of the blue, attack Ronda. I now, well, I like the fact that there was this swerve at the same time. I don't know if that's the way I wanted to see the titles put back on Liv and Raquel, but I'll take it. I'm very curious to see where this goes between Ronda and Shayna. More than likely, SummerSlam. I know they have, I think, a date set for the last show that Ronda will work. And I don't know exactly specifically what that date is. Because if they wanted to, they could do SummerSlam for that match. And if they didn't want that to be the end, they could do a payback match for the two of them. To make it into more two premium live events. To really kind of, not necessarily, I don't want to necessarily say grade that out, but similar to the way they keep adding elements to some feuds, they could do that here. But that's what this was for. This is to set up a big match between Shayna and Ronda. And I'm here for that. I'm looking forward to that. So we had... Let's talk about a couple of returns here while we're doing things. So we had Gunther versus Matt Riddle. Now I thought it would be really neat to see Matt Riddle win. And I honestly thought that would propel him so far. But that wasn't the story, right? They want to keep Gunther looking strong, which they did. They want to see him continue his reign. And I'm all for that. It was a good call, right? Better call was after Gunther picks up the victory, Drew McIntyre comes out. That's right, he's back. And I'm all for this. Looking at the two of them stare each other down, that's going to be a good match. And we all thought that it was a good match when we found out that we were going to get Sheamus versus Gunther. There was one other person in that match too. And now I'm drawing a blank as to who that was. But, that actually may have been Drew McIntyre, come to think of it. So we're going to get Drew McIntyre versus Gunther. I think more than likely for the Intercontinental Championship. Going to be good. So that is the first of the returns. Sidetrack here, because the next thing was a match, but we're going to drop to John Cena here in London, making his return. He's trying to get people hyped up to bring WrestleMania to London. Okay. Here's the thing. I'm all for WrestleMania going to London, alright? I think that would be great for them. And I think they put on a really great show there. The crowd would be electric. No question about it. However, some people would like to see that essentially happen 2025, which would be WrestleMania 41. I'm kind of hoping not. Here's why. Hear me out, guys, because... And I get that John Cena's out there. He's hyping this up. So, from that perspective, you get the idea that WWE is really putting some thought into having it there. But 2025, WrestleMania 41, putting us all here live on YouTube, I would love to see WrestleMania brought to Minnesota. Okay? Minnesota has hosted other premium live events, other big shows. They have not ever hosted WrestleMania. There was talks of it after the new stadium was built. And I think those talks died down a little bit when the Super Bowl was scheduled then here. And that caused some issues, potentially with there just being too much going on at one time. Because WrestleMania maybe would have been a little too soon after that to really have all of that prepared and planned for that quickly. There is talks. I believe it is still a possibility that WrestleMania 41 could come to Minnesota. Now, this segment also then brings in Grayson Waller, who is attempting to get WrestleMania to Australia. So this is exciting, guys, that we are starting to talk about bringing WrestleMania out of the U.S. How exciting is that in this time? There are so many fans all over the world that this is even a possibility that they're considering is amazing. So that was Grayson Waller's addition to Money in the Bank. And it is an exciting time to think about it possibly going to London. I just had to put my plug in for WrestleMania 41 2025. Minnesota. We want it. I promise we will be so loud for you. Okay, so then we had Cody Rhodes taking on Dominic Mysterio. Cody Rhodes ends up picking up the victory. Yes, Rhea was at ringside. I had to stop and think a minute, because she isn't always. So Cody Rhodes ends up picking up the victory, which I'm happy with. I don't know where this necessarily takes them, though. It would have made more sense to maybe have had Dominic win through interference by, I don't know, maybe a returning Brock accepting Cody's challenge. I think there was a lot of talk of that as a possibility. It didn't happen, so I don't know exactly what this was supposed to do for a storyline. But I mean, it was an okay match. It was all right. Not terrible. Okay. All right, we then have the last match, and we're done. The Bloodline Civil War. Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa versus Jimmy and Jay Uso. I've been looking forward to this match. It was so close numerous times. You had the ref getting knocked out, and you thought, this is going to be it again, right? And Uso kicked out. One of those, while the ref was out, one of those sneak attacks, that usually is where Roman picks up his victories. It didn't happen. The Usos pick up the victory. It was a great back and forth match. It really was. I loved it. Honestly, I like it. Do I think this is the end to that story? No. I think they continue this saga, and eventually it does lead to, I think, Solo betraying Roman. I think he turns on him. Not yet, because I think the whole build to this is the fact that it's been slow, and that's why it's been so good. So I don't think they do that yet. They need to take their time with it. But I think that's where they're going to go with this. So Jay ends up picking up the victory, pinning Roman. That hasn't happened for a long time. A couple years. Roman had not been pinned, so... So, an interesting recap afterwards. So they did end up doing a press conference afterwards, and during that press conference, we did get a united front by Bayley and Io. So, I mean, at the end of the day, while Bayley was understandably upset, she also has been there long enough to understand that it is every woman for herself, and I'm not going to necessarily be upset about that. So I thought that was just an interesting side note to kind of plug in there. So don't forget to drop a like. If you want to see more of these, hit subscribe. And any comments, whether you agree, disagree, anything you just want to add, your thoughts on the show, any of the three of them, go ahead, leave a comment. Let's talk about it, right? Love to have some conversations. We will see you guys next week. Excited for Monday Night Raw tomorrow night. It has been a busy day, honestly, which is why I'm just now getting to this. So I worked late last night. And then today, I spent most of the day over at a friend's. They were busy putting together a couple computers. Not mine, but they were working on two of them. So that took up most of the day. So I've not been home to put this together. So, sorry that this did get out late, but that's okay. We will see you guys next weekend. Alright, thanks.